Good evening and salutations, my Days of Our Lives fans. You know, Holly summed up this scene perfectly in one sentence. You had 17 years to tell me the truth. Often with people lie, right? And this is for Eric, this is for Adam with Sally on The Young and Restless. Most of the times, it's to protect themselves, right? There is no excuse that him or Nicole could come up with to sit there and keep that from her for 17 years. And yet, that's literally what Eric does. And she's not cutting him any slack. And as much as I didn't like Holly when she first came in, and she's not exactly my favorite character, I'm 100% on her side. Okay? I'm 100% on her side. She's upset with him, and she's also upset with Nicole. Let me ask you a question. Do you feel bad for him? Because I know that he's remorseful, he apologizes over and over again, he gives his reasons why he didn't do it, and da 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 da, then yada yada yada. But my question is for you, do you actually feel bad for him? Because I don't. Okay? I don't. When you don't deal with your problems, eventually they will catch up to you. And this was a 17-year problem. And you know what? Even if I wanted to be nice and generous and give him a bit of slack, you had 10 years, 12 at max, to sit there and tell the truth. So everything, all the smoke that Holly was giving Eric, he deserved it. My only gripe is that Nicole didn't get any of it in that scene. And if we're going to be honest, she actually deserves more. Because she's a mom, you know? Yeah, Eric should have said something. He played daddy and everything like that, but she should have said something. So the fact that she's getting off light in our eyes is a huge shame. So after that, um, he says what he says, and I think he leaves. I saw it's like 6 o'clock in the morning, so I think he leaves at that point. But and from what I understand, he was in the car. Daniel, I think that's his name. Daniel was in the car with Eric, and so that's you're behind the wheel, and it happened, and you caused the death of someone else. So I definitely don't feel bad for him. Yeah, he can be remorseful as much as he wants. At the end of the day, he still did what he did. Um, Brady, Brady was just as annoying as John was, right? He was blaming himself. He he got upset with Justin for doing his job. Okay, he was like, I want to sit there and pay. I want to da 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 da. You hired him to fight for you. That's literally what he wound up doing. So I don't really understand why are you upset with him for? But of course, he was just like John. He wants to pay for his crime. He did it. Da 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 da. Just over and over and over again. Even with Ava. Now, now Ava decides she wants to sit there and take some responsibility for a grown ass man. And Smith is saying, well, she should have stopped him. She should have did. No, 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 no. This is on him. Yeah, I did make the comment of, and I kind of stand by it to some extent. If she wanted to do something, she should have called Kristen. You and Kristen are friends and everything like that. You know damn well that Kristen and Brady share a daughter. I'm pretty sure she would have wanted to know. But at the end of the day, it's not her responsibility. So she plays a little bit of martyr, and it doesn't really go anywhere. Um, Maybe down the line, if they want to sit there and put those two together, that might be how it started. It's also sad During that scene with Eric and Holly, there was a flashback, not of Nicole, of Sarah. They were sitting there talking about the whole accident and everything like that, and keeping the secret away from Holly. And of course, it just shows him in a bad light. Like, bro, you had so much time to sit there and tell this girl, and you didn't. And you know what? She was actually tempted. She was actually tempted to sit there and look online. And I said that in my members live stream. I was like, or somebody said it was like, why does she not actually look it up on the internet? And that's because Nicole was like, oh, just some rando, and she didn't want to sit there and look at the gory details. But yeah, crazy. Now, Fiona, we all knew that this chick was not going to sit there and smother Sarah because it just wouldn't have made no damn sense. You were the last person in the room to sit there and see to be with Sarah, so it just wouldn't have worked. She go back and forth and back and forth, and eventually she doesn't do it. She's all like, "Oh my god, what am I doing?" And da 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 da. Now Xander comes up there. Sarah wakes up. They're talking about the accident and everything. And at some point, Xander's trying to get her to remember, but she can't remember. He's like, I have a brilliant idea. Let's get Marlena. Now, Fiona, and this is actually, as I was doing this review, I'm thinking about it. He wanted to sit there and take her to Marlena. And Fiona's like, well, I don't know if that's such a good idea because you were the one that sat there and shot at her. I mean, you did shoot at her. And Xander was like, well, how did you know that? Now, if this was way back then, let's sit there and say 1994, 1985 or something like that, she couldn't have used the excuse of, I looked it up on the internet. I want to sit there and see what you're up to while I wasn't here in your life. So it would have been very interesting to sit there and see what kind of excuse she would have came up with. Now, of course, she knows that because she was with Brady. And also Brady did tell Ava to, not really say anything about Brady hooking up with Xander's mom. I don't know why. It just sounds so weird. It's like hooking up with Stifler's mom. But if you know the reference, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, it's not important. But yeah, they go back and forth and back and forth. And, Fiona is they're trying to get them to die down the idea. And at one point says, like, yeah, you're right. Because even if I do remember, it's not going to sit there and change anything. I'm still going to be in the chair and stuff. And, Fiona's like, don't you want to sit there and worry about your recovery? Ultimately, they decide to do it. And, Fiona leaves and she's not happy about it because, once she gets caught, I mean, that's pretty much her ass at this point. And I think Sarah is actually going to feel really crappy. Remember, she was the one that actually sat there and brung Fiona there, kept nagging Xander to sit there and give her another chance, and she's changed and da 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 this. And Victoria needs to sit there and see her other grandmother for some odd reason. So when it really comes down to it, yeah, I mean it's not her fault that Fiona hit her, but there's a cause and effect to everything in this world. Things happen in a certain order, and it's just unfortunately you nagged him. You got Fiona here. She came here, and I don't even know. I don't even think she was drunk. I just think. I mean, granted, yeah, she was drinking, but she would have been fine if she didn't keep turning her eyes away from the road like an idiot. It's like, no, you weren't drunk. You were just a terrible driver at that point. Now, Justin is telling Maggie, and eventually Xander, that Brady made bail. He's all pissed off and everything like that. And, he's upset with Justin for making it happen. And of course he's forgetting. Again, he doesn't really have room to sit there and really come at Justin. But he is upset that he's out there on the streets and stuff. And Maggie, see, this is the thing about Maggie, right? I don't know if this is a problem or whatever, but Maggie is a very good-hearted person, right? And so she feels for Brady. She feels for Brady because that's family. She feels for Brady How much of family, like, did they ever actually, those two go out, like, Sarah and Brady? Anyway, she feels for him, though. She understands what it's like to sit there and have that disease. She loves Brady just as a person, but he's the prime suspect. And he's the one that he's the one that, let's be honest, when it comes to his parents, they're always going to sit there and in some sense look at you as your little girl or your little boy, or whatever. So he did, technically in her eyes so far, even though she can't believe it, put her in a wheelchair. So it's like, part of me is not there saying, it's like, maybe you should be a little more upset with her, you know, instead of having this level of compassion. And even Sarah, just the whole kumbaya, like, well, I know he didn't mean to do it, and he has a disease, and there's a doctor. It's like, no, 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 no. He took something away from you that's going to affect you and your daughter, in a sense, for the rest of your life. I would expect a little more level of anger than anything else. So this, in the middle between both of them, it just feels like kind of off, and it's kind of weird coming from me because sometimes I always sit there and see a situation from both sides. But when it comes to something that devastating, I kind of feel like maybe you should sit there and pick a side and be a little more realistic, um, as far as that's concerned. And I think the last thing, it's really odd. I was looking at my notes from like 2 days ago, and I'm like, some of this stuff is not really making a lot of sense. I'm like, oh yeah, that's why, because it's 2 days ago. And that is the Tate and John scene. Tate is feeling guilty for, telling her the truth essentially and, leaving her in this emotional turmoil. But John is like, yo, listen, she was going to sit there and find out the truth sooner or later. And it's also a little kind of odd because at one point he wants to sit there and text her and call her, and John's like, yo, listen, give us some time to sit there and process this. But then towards the end of the scene, it's like, yeah, well, a little text, a little call, whatever wouldn't hurt, just to let you know, just to let her know that you're still caring about it. I was like, well, which one is it? Do you want him not to do anything, or do you want? Also, he's conflicted because he's like, we had an argument, me defending Brady and her being upset, but at the end of the day, he's my dad, and long story short, John's like, listen, you're not condoning what he's doing, you're not condoning what he did, but you're still there to support him, and there's nothing wrong with that. And plus, he does sit there and say there's a lot of different factors that's, that might be in the play. He doesn't remember him actually doing it. So while he may or may not be guilty, we just don't know the full extent of this whole story. Which again is kind of ironic because, he decided to cop to a crime that he don't even remember if he actually did or not, and was going to turn himself into the Greek authorities. But yet he's spotting all this wisdom and everything in Brady's situation, and it's so similar to his own. Which, by the way, I gotta sit there and ask another question. Are we ever actually gonna find out what happened with the whole Katharina thing? Did he actually pull the trigger? Did he not pull the trigger? Are we gonna get to it 3 years later? Are we ever gonna sit there and find out whatever happened to Evan Spears? Fears. Yeah, I'm still wondering about that. Anyway, I mean, there was a scene with Xander and Maggie, but he was just happy that Fiona was back in town, which is going to be ironic when he does find out the truth. He's going to be pissed off. Um, he's probably going to be kicking himself like, I should have never let Sarah talk me into bringing my mom back, because look what wound up happening. Now, I feel like that's pretty much about it. That's the only things that I can sit there and think of off the top of my head and off my notes. But if I missed anything, you know what to do. Come to the live stream tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We'll talk about all the shows, General Hospital, Days of Our Lives, Born and Beautiful, Young and Restless. And if everything goes well, I'm going to sit there and have a special guest. I'm not going to say who. I'll leave it as a surprise. And I'll do that for the other soap operas. But anyway, with that being said, I'm gonna go. I'll see you in the next video.